My dear friend, let me take you on a journey of healing, self-discovery, and divine affirmation today. One that will soothe your tender heart, restore your balance, and anchor you in the profound truth of your worth in God's eyes. I want to talk about those moments when you feel like you're always the one who cares too much, pouring your heart, energy, and love into relationships, dreams, or causes, only to feel unreciprocated, drained, or taken for granted. The ache of caring deeply while others seem indifferent can feel like a heavy burden, tempting you to harden your heart or question your sensitivity. But I'm here to tell you that your deep capacity to care is not a flaw. It's a God-given gift, a reflection of His heart in you. No. You're the one who cares too much because God has wired you with a heart of compassion and purpose, and He's calling you to channel that care wisely to shine in His divine plan. I'm going to unpack why you care so deeply, share Dr. Myles Munroe's wisdom on stewarding your God-given heart, and show you how to live so radiantly that you protect your heart while fulfilling the purpose God has for you. Let's begin with a foundational truth. You're always the one who cares too much because God has given you a heart of compassion designed to reflect His love, but He's teaching you to steward that gift with wisdom to fulfill His purpose without losing yourself. I need you to let that truth take root deep within your soul. When you care deeply, whether it's loving friends who don't return the same devotion, investing in work that goes unnoticed, or pouring yourself into others' needs while yours are ignored, it's not because you're weak or overly emotional. It's because God has crafted you with a heart that mirrors His, one that loves fiercely, gives generously, and feels profoundly. But caring too much without boundaries can leave you depleted, and God wants you to learn discernment to direct your care where it's valued. You see, every one of you watching me right now is a vessel of divine love, created to impact the world with your heart. As John 13:34 says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." Your deep care is a gift, not a curse, but God is guiding you to use it wisely to shine for His glory. Picture this for a moment. Think of the biblical figures who cared deeply, often more than those around them, yet God used their hearts to fulfill His purpose. Do you think their care was a mistake? Do you think God didn't honor their hearts? Far from it. Look at Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, who cared so deeply for Israel that he mourned their rebellion, yet God used his heart to speak truth and hope. Look at Ruth, who cared so much for Naomi that she left her homeland, yet God blessed her devotion with a legacy in Christ's lineage. Look at Jesus, who cared so deeply for humanity that He gave His life even for those who rejected Him, yet God exalted Him for His love. Their stories show that caring too much is a divine trait when guided by God's wisdom, and He uses it to shape your purpose. And the same is true for you. When you feel like you care too much, it's not a sign of weakness. It's God's invitation to steward your heart for a purpose that will glorify Him and fulfill you. Here's a vital principle I want you to embrace. You're the one who cares too much because God has given you a heart that reflects His love, but His purpose is to teach you discernment and boundaries, so your care blesses others and yourself without draining your soul. Your life is like a divine well, filled with God's love, and your deep care is meant to refresh others, but without wisdom, you risk running dry. When you care too much, it's often because you're wired to see needs, feel empathy, and act with generosity. But giving without limits or reciprocity can lead to exhaustion. God wants you to love like He does, abundantly but wisely, directing your care to those who value it and align with His purpose for you. Here's my wisdom. Don't shut down your heart or regret caring too much. Trust God to guide your love, set boundaries to protect your heart, and focus on pouring your care into the purpose He's designed, where it will bear fruit and bring you joy. Now let's dive into why you're always the one who cares too much and how to navigate the pain of unreciprocated love. You may care deeply because God has gifted you with empathy, sensitivity, or a servant's heart, making you attuned to others' needs. You might pour yourself into relationships or work out of a desire to love like Christ, but without boundaries, you attract those who take without giving back. Sometimes cultural or personal expectations, like being the strong one or the giver, reinforce your tendency to overcare. Whatever the reason, caring too much can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, or tempted to stop caring altogether. You may struggle to say no, fear letting others down, or question if your heart is a liability. But here's my guidance. Don't let unreciprocated care diminish your worth. Your heart is a gift, not a flaw. Trust God to teach you how to steward it, set boundaries to guard it, and shine in the purpose He's calling you to, where your care will be valued and returned. Let me share a story to make this real. I once knew a woman who always cared too much for her friends. She listened to their problems, helped with their crises, and sacrificed her time, but when she needed support, they were often unavailable. The pain of giving more than she received was exhausting. She felt unvalued, wondering if her heart was too soft. But she turned to God, praying for wisdom and trusting His affirmation of her worth. She learned to set boundaries, offering her care selectively to those who reciprocated, and focused on her purpose, starting a ministry to support single mothers. There, her deep care was cherished, and she found reciprocal relationships that filled her heart. Her old friends noticed her absence and reached out, but she was already thriving where her heart was valued. She cared too much, not because she was weak, but because God gave her a heart like His, and He taught her to steward it wisely. The pain was real, but it was a sign. God's guidance led her to a purpose where her care bore fruit. That's the power I want you to seize. You're the one who cares too much because God has given you a heart of divine love, but His purpose is to guide you to use it wisely, protecting your soul while fulfilling your calling. The pain of unreciprocated care is a testament to God's teaching, a challenge to set boundaries, a reminder to live for His purpose, not others' demands. When you refuse to let their indifference define you, when you trust God's guidance, you become unstoppable. And that's when God's glory shines. They may feel the void of your care when you set boundaries, but you'll be thriving where your heart is cherished, your life a beacon of His love. Here's the key. Their response is not your mission. Your mission is to live so fully in God's purpose that your care blesses others and yourself, glorifying Him. Now, let me speak to those of you who are carrying the pain of caring too much like a weight that won't lift. Some of you are holding on to the hurt, replaying the moments when you gave your all and got little in return, letting it convince you that your heart is a burden. You're telling yourself, I need to stop caring, or my love is never enough. My friend, you got to release that burden. Your deep care is not a liability, it's a gift, and God affirms your worth. You are not defined by who doesn't reciprocate. You are defined by the God who created you, who loves you, who gave you a heart like His. Stop giving their indifference power over your future. God has a purpose where your care will be valued, but you must protect your heart to embrace it. Here's how you heal and move forward. First, anchor your heart in God's love. The way you view your unreciprocated care shapes how you live. If you see it as a sign of weakness, you'll harden your heart. But if you see it as a gift to be stewarded, you'll live with wisdom. Start telling yourself, my heart reflects God's love and He'll guide me to use it wisely. Spend time in His Word, letting verses like 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 remind you that love is patient and kind, but also discerning. Say, I am gifted by God. My care has purpose. I am destined for His glory. When you anchor your heart in God's love, you stop seeking their reciprocation and start caring where it's valued. Second, set boundaries with courage. One of the reasons you're drained from caring too much is because you give without limits. So, don't pour yourself into those who take without giving back. Pray for discernment to know when to say no, and prioritize relationships and efforts that honor your heart. Setting boundaries isn't unloving, it's protecting the gift God gave you. Trust that God will bring those who value your care. When you set boundaries with courage, you reclaim your energy, and that courage empowers you to shine in God's purpose. Third, channel your care into purpose. Caring too much can feel like a burden when misdirected, but it's a superpower when aligned with God's plan. Identify where your heart can make a difference. Maybe mentoring others, serving in your community, or pursuing a passion that reflects your love. Focus your care on what aligns with your purpose and reciprocates your heart. Channeling your care doesn't mean stopping it, it means directing it where it bears fruit. When you channel your care into purpose, you create a life that's fulfilling, and your heart becomes a testimony of God's love. Now let me talk to those of you who are afraid to keep caring. Some of you are holding back from loving, giving, or dreaming because you're scared of being drained or unappreciated again. I understand that fear. It's real after such pain. But here's the truth. You can't live God's purpose by closing your heart. Loving, serving, pursuing your calling. These require an open heart, but they come with the promise of God's wisdom and provision. Don't let the fear of caring too much keep you from God's plan. Trust that God is your guide, that He's teaching you discernment, that your heart is safe in Him. The relationships, opportunities, and purposes God has for you are waiting, and you'll find them when you care wisely in faith. Let me share a story from my own life to illustrate this. Early in my ministry, I cared too much for a group I served, always available to counsel, support, and guide, but they rarely reciprocated, leaving me drained. The pain of giving more than I received was heavy. I wondered if my heart was too open, but I turned to God, surrendering the hurt, trusting His affirmation of my worth. He showed me to set boundaries, offering my care where it was valued, and I focused on a new ministry where my heart was cherished. That ministry grew, impacting lives with mutual love, and the original group later sought my help, but I was already thriving where my care was reciprocated. I cared too much, not because I was flawed, but because God gave me a heart like His, and He taught me to steward it. The pain was real, but it was a lesson. It taught me to trust God's guidance, to protect my heart, and to shine for His glory. It propelled me to a purpose that changed lives. So, let me ask you, what's the pain of caring too much stopping you from doing? What dream are you hesitating to chase because you're afraid of being unappreciated again? What purpose are you delaying because you're stuck on their indifference? My friend, you don't need their reciprocation to shine. You need God's purpose. You need your own faith, your own wisdom, your own trust in the one who gave you a heart like His. Their indifference may hurt, but it can't stop you unless you let it. Get up, protect your heart, and start living the destiny God created for you. The world needs your light, and no one's response can dim God's plan. Now let's talk about how to make your life so radiant that the pain of caring too much becomes a chapter of growth. Not to prove them wrong, but to live so fully in God's purpose that your heart glorifies Him. First, live for God's glory. When you're unappreciated, it's tempting to stop caring, but that's a trap. Instead, live to honor God. Use your heart, pursue your calling, shine your love for His kingdom. When you live for God's glory, your care finds its true purpose, attracting those who value your heart as He does. Second, live with wisdom. Their indifference can make you overgive, but wisdom in God's love is your strength. Trust that your heart is a gift, that God will guide your care, that your purpose is secure. Step out boldly knowing that the one who created your heart will teach you discernment. When you live with wisdom, you show the world and yourself that caring too much didn't drain you, it refined you. And that wisdom inspires others to steward their hearts in their own pain. Third, live with purpose. Don't let their indifference derail your focus. Wake up every day asking, God, how can I fulfill your plan today? How can my heart shine where it's valued? Purpose is your anchor. It keeps you steady through the hurt. When you live with purpose, you create a life that's magnetic, drawing in relationships and opportunities that cherish your heart. And those who didn't reciprocate may feel your absence, but you'll be thriving where your care is valued, declaring God's love. Let me take this further. To truly rise above the pain of caring too much, you've got to cultivate God confidence. God confidence is the assurance that your worth comes from the one who created your heart, not the ones who didn't value it. Spend time in His presence, letting His word remind you of your value. Colossians 3:12 says, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Believe it, live it. When you're grounded in God confidence, you create an inner light that no indifference can extinguish, and that light attracts those who are meant to walk with you. Another key is to practice gratitude. Caring too much can make you focus on the pain, but gratitude shifts your perspective to God's faithfulness. Be thankful for your heart, your purpose, the people who value your care. Be thankful for the lessons, the wisdom, the opportunities your boundaries create. Gratitude doesn't erase the hurt, but it lifts you above it, reminding you that God's plan is greater than their response. Try this. Every day, write down one way your care is making a difference. Over time, gratitude will transform how you experience unreciprocated love, making it a stepping stone to your destiny. Let me share another story to drive this home. I once met a man who cared too much for his coworkers, always staying late to help, offering support and solving problems. But they rarely acknowledged his efforts, taking his care for granted. The pain of being unappreciated was deep. He felt like his heart was a liability. But he surrendered the hurt to God, trusting His worth was divine. He set boundaries, focusing his care on a community project where his compassion was valued, and built reciprocal relationships that filled his soul. His coworkers struggled without his extra help and later respected his boundaries, but he was already shining where his heart was cherished. He cared too much, not because he was weak, but because God gave him a heart like his and he taught him to steward it. The pain was real, but it was a lesson. It taught him to trust God's guidance, to protect his heart, and to shine for his glory. It propelled him to a purpose that changed lives. Here's another principle. Embrace God's discernment. Their indifference can make you feel exploited, but God uses it to teach you how to love wisely. Trust that He's showing you where to invest your heart and guiding you to those who reciprocate your care. Your job is to walk in discernment, not to overgive. When you embrace God's discernment, their indifference becomes a divine filter for your destiny, and that perspective empowers you to shine where He leads. Another practical step is to celebrate your heart. Caring too much can make you feel vulnerable, but celebrating your God-given compassion shifts your focus to His truth. Acknowledge your love, your sensitivity, the ways you reflect God's heart. Take bold steps, pursue your passions, build mutual relationships, serve where your care is valued. Celebration keeps you rooted in God's affirmation, reminding you that their indifference didn't define you. It revealed the strength of your divine calling. Let me close with this. You are not defined by those who don't reciprocate your care or their indifference. You are defined by the God who created your heart, who loves you, who gave you a gift of compassion. You are radiant. You are irreplaceable. You are a vessel of divine purpose. Caring too much is not a flaw. It's a lesson, a sign, a call to shine wiser. Anchor your heart in God's love. Set boundaries with courage. Channel your care into purpose. Live for His glory with wisdom and purpose. Cultivate God confidence. Practice gratitude. Embrace His discernment and celebrate your heart. When you do these things, you'll live a life so vibrant that the pain of caring too much will fade in the light of your purpose, and you'll glorify God while inspiring others to trust His plan. So go out there, my friend, shine with unyielding brilliance, chase your purpose with unrelenting faith. Let caring too much be the lesson that fuels your greatest chapter. The world needs your heart, and no one's indifference can stop God's plan. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way.